And we've been talking a little bit about how all the eight folds are connected in many more ways than we thought they were originally connected. You've heard me say more than once in the old days, that is to say the 80s, 70s, it was all about mindfulness, not about there were seven other folds, but really there was not a lot of emphasis on the others. Yeah. But just be keeping mindful and everything else will show up naturally, which I think is a profound misunderstanding, misconception of the practice, and certainly not what the Buddha taught. Yeah, it was all about eight folds and the many dimensions of the practice, the whole life practice. Yeah. And it starts, and of course, as we've mentioned, it starts with a right view and right intention. And it occurred to me this morning to want to say more about wrong view. What does that mean? We talk about right view, and really, of course, we're saying it's skillful view. It's the more skillful view, but it's the view that shapes the whole path. And there really is that emphasis that if we don't understand basically the direction in which we're moving the boat, the whole boat could move in the wrong direction for a very long time. And we imagine that this is what it is. This is the way we're supposed to be steering it, you know? And so it's so important. I remember when I was a kid, I went from baseball to golf when I was 11 years old. I was a really good baseball player. When I took up golf, I thought there was only one way to hold a club, which is the same way you hold a baseball club. Yeah. And I couldn't figure out why the ball wasn't going straight. You know, it went straight when I hit it like that with a bat, a ball with a bat. Yeah. And it took me a while to see, oh, it's about holding, you have to hold the club this way, not that way. Do you know? Right? And similarly in meditation, I thought I was practicing properly in line with right view, and I was not for a long time. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. And I'll tell you because I want to just highlight briefly some of the misconceptions about this practice, some understanding of wrong view, which a lot of us participate in if we don't really understand this. The first is that we could figure things out cognitively, intellectually, that we could be smart enough to just figure out how to get to the promised land, how to think our way to happiness. You know, it's not true. It's not true. The Buddha is so clear about this, you know, that cognition can be helpful to orient us, but the practice is not just about becoming better thinkers about our experience, you know. That will not take us to the deeper places of contentment that we want. Right? Just thinking. This is a big deal because thinking is our refuge for many of us. Thinking is a big refuge in these days and in our culture. You know, and we bring that right into the practice. When the mind wanders, where does it go? Mostly to thinking, doesn't it? Yeah, we go to thinking. Yeah. So thinking is a big deal. And it's a big deal to begin to see that thinking is not all that's involved in this practice. It won't, in and of itself, take us where we want to go. Yeah. Magical thinking isn't it either. Wishful thinking isn't it either. You know, imagining that somehow things will just be okay isn't it either. Imagining that we are just everything, we're one with everything anyway, all the time, so everything's okay, is not it either. Because there's so much conditioning in all of us that we can't just stop it. We can't stop creating trouble for ourselves. We can have the idea that all is one. It's a good thought. It's a lovely thought. In fact, I could even experience some moments of that. I experience it a lot, moments out here in nature, which is beautiful, yeah? But that's not the practice either. That's not right view, that's enough, that everything is, there's a practice involved with it, you know? And the Buddha talked about this wonderful word that's called vipallasa. Vipallasa, Vipallasa. It means inverted view, inverted view. Not so much, he didn't talk so much about wrong view. He talked about inverted view, which is basically that we are not aligned with some of the basic core principles of the way things are. And that is, and if we go further with our inverted view, we're just going to get further inverted. We're not going to get closer to awakening. And so what is inverted view? For example, impermanence. Now, impermanence is one of the things that is important to really begin to get a grasp of as part of right view, that everything changes, that everything is changing in there, and that there's nothing solid in there. But this is a very big deal because we're not wired that way. In fact, if we look closely, so much of our orientation is trying to make things more steady, more solid, more durable, more predictable, more safe. And our whole orientation, and we're wired this way. It's not our fault. We're evolutionarily wired toward grasping onto things, holding on to the things that we like, and pushing away the things that we don't like. And that can only take us so far in terms of happiness. Yeah? And the Buddha said at some point we've got to see that it is that very activity, the strategies of acquisition and the strategies of avoidance that are keeping us from becoming happier. It doesn't work because everything in here is impermanent. And the poignant piece about this practice is that, look at us, we're trying to replace certain impermanent bits of experience with other impermanent bits of experience, imagining that's how we'll get happy. And then we do that. We'll do that in meditation. I did that for a long time, a meditation practice, before I saw, yeah. And that the direction here is to make a more full relationship with the present moment. In some ways, we don't want to believe that. We're wired to think, no. There's certain things I want to make a relationship with. There are certain things I definitely do not want to make a relationship with. There are certain parts of myself, if I get rid of them, then I'll be happy. I have to get rid of some things first. Someday, but not today. But not this moment. Not this mess here, right here, that's coming up. I need that to go away. This is wrong view. And yet we bring that view a lot, don't we? In here. If only this went away, I'd be content. We don't see that that's part of the problem. Right view is we need to be able to make a relationship more and more and more with the present moment, and see that all of our strategies to not fully relate to the present moment, to imagine that there's some other moment in some other way, in some other context that I need, including the enlightenment moment, that is creating it's prolonging, and it's creating more suffering, yeah. Our attachment to ourselves, to the self, the separate self, is also, we won't go into that a lot right now, but that is also one of the issues. The attempt to make the self solid, to imagine that it is solid. Yeah. And so much of right view is seeing the ways that we are orienting, and that we will bring right into our meditation practice. And also, here's another one, that right view is working really hard, using tremendous amount of willpower to overcome. Not true. But I did that for 20 years in my meditation practice. I thought that was the way. And I was holding the golf club wrong for 20 years. Before I realized, I have to hold the club differently. That's why the ball isn't going straight. That's why I'm not experiencing more progress, because I'm pushing too hard. I always thought you have to push really hard, don't you, to get places in life? Not meditation. It's balanced energy. It's also a balancing the receptive. The receptive. Yeah. It's taking our pedal off the metal. It's the way we try to control and drive and orchestrate our experience that is itself part of the reason that we're suffering, creating distress for ourselves. Yeah. And so again, all of this is uh, so important, and so we spend time on this. We spend a lot of time on right view, because it's one of the things that it wasn't ever in our teaching instruction. Right view was not emphasized a lot. It wasn't emphasized much at all, actually, and so it's one of those pieces that we really need to consider. Make sure we're holding the golf club the right way. Yeah. And it's so easy to not hold it the right way, or to find ourselves gripping it the wrong way again. And here I go again. Trying to push something away, ban something from the kingdom. Here I go again, trying to hold on, grasp for dear life, something that is not permanent, etc., etc. So, enough on that. And right view is what then paves the way for all of the eightfold path. Right view, and that right intention, and then beginning to move through all the other aspects, and they all fold together. Then they all come together, but they don't come together until we get what right view is. Yeah, yeah. So I offer that for your reflection this morning, and obviously, we're not going to leave the Eightfold Path in the rearview mirror as we move on and start to focus on other things here with you. Yeah, they'll be coming with us every step of the way.